Well, it's an early start to day number 3 of NFL free agency for the Seattle Seahawks as they have signed former Cleveland Browns center and fullback Nick Harris to a one-year, $2.51 million deal plus incentives, according to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero. A max of $3.26 million for Harris, who has appeared in 40 games in his career with 4 starts. It's no secret the Seahawks were looking for help on the offensive line, specifically in the interior of the offensive line. And now they bring in a guy with Nick Harris who was thought of to have a lot of potential and now gets the chance to finally show it of sorts. Let's tell you more about Nick Harris. If the name is familiar to you, it should be, as he was a Washington Husky, played there from 2016 to 2019, and was drafted in 2020 in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns, a 2-time All Pac-12 first-team selection in 2018 and in 2019. And here's a little more context about his time in Cleveland. He was set to be the Browns' starting center in 2021, replacing the one and only J.C. Tretter. Ended up tearing his ACL a few snaps into the preseason in week 1. Came back in 2022, and his job was taken, so he became the backup center as the Browns ended up using him a lot at fullback. And then you want to talk full circle? The guy that took his job in Cleveland was Ethan Pocic. So now we see Harris and Pocic basically kind of swap teams, a trade a couple years later of sorts. So full circle on that front there. Now, when it comes to Nick Harris, the numbers of what he's done, according to the folks at PFF, I want to bring you these numbers here as I'm pulling this up in real time, folks, so you can see for yourself what we're talking about here. Nick Harris, his grades, according to PFF, last season in 2023, not anything spectacular. A 59.5 offensive grade, a 58.7 run block grade, and a 66.3 pass block grade. But that you look a year prior in 2021 of what he did, or 2 years prior actually, because he was out all 2022 with the injury. He had a overall grade of 70. A run block grade is 67.2, and a pass block grade is 75.3. So the best case that you could argue about Nick Harris is untapped potential. That, due to that injury, that he maybe hasn't gotten the chance to really prove himself and show his full worth of who he really is there with the Cleveland Browns. So this is one for me, for the Seahawks here, that I don't hate this signing because you didn't pay him a ton. He hasn't really gotten a great opportunity of sorts due to that injury that kind of set him back. And here's a chance for him to step up and show what he's really worth. And at the very least, if it doesn't work out, he can at least be a backup and potentially a fullback replacement for Nick Bellore. So there's some flexibility here with this Nick Harris signing. What is your one-word reaction to the Seahawks signing Nick Harris and bringing him in from the Cleveland Browns? My one word is satisfied. I look at this. This isn't one to hate on. It isn't an over-the-top signing. It's one where the Seahawks say, let's give this guy a shot. Let's see what he's got. There's not much that can hurt us here. That they've seen the tape. It's a cheap signing. He's got potential here. Just needs an opportunity to show it. So this is a satisfying signing as far as I'm concerned. What is your one-word reaction? Let us know in the comments section. Folks, this is why you subscribe to Seahawks Today. I was up late last night as we had breaking news that we covered on the channel here and about the first signing that the Seahawks made outside the organization, which was Pharaoh Brown, formerly of the New England Patriots. There's a video on that we broke down late last night here from my at-home studio, and I was just about set to get into the office. And don't worry, folks, we got plenty more free agency coverage ahead, so lock us in. We're going to be live later on today, myself, Tyler Smith. Smitty going to join me as well. We will see you at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. We're getting very, very close to 51,000 subscribers, by the way. So if you're a diehard 12, if you love the Seattle Seahawks, subscribe now. Join the family and be a part of what we're doing each and every day on Seahawks Today as we bring you the latest happenings throughout free agency and throughout this offseason. We got you covered here on the channel. So Nick Harris off to Seattle, a one-year, $2.51 million deal plus incentives with a max of $3.26 for Harris, who's appeared in 40 games with 4 career starts for the former Washington Husky. And many believed that he was near the top when it came to fullbacks. Our own Matthew Peterson, who covers the Cleveland Browns Report, called him the best fullback in the NFL. And as I'm reading through what Browns fans are saying is that he had a great package there with the Cleveland Browns. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly the Seahawks have in mind with Nick Harris. They need help, obviously, the interior of the offensive line. Do you put him at center there? Do you play him at the fullback spot, trying to replace Nick Bellore? It'll be interesting to see what Nick Grubb's got in mind, or what Ryan Grubb, rather, has in mind. Getting names all mixed up here. What Ryan Grubb has in mind for the Seahawks offense of how much they use a fullback or not in this air raid scheme, so that remains to be seen. But at the very least, you have some flexibility here with Nick Harris to figure out where exactly he fits, whether that's at center, whether that's at fullback. It'll be interesting to see exactly what the Seahawks are thinking as they'll have plenty of different options for a relatively cheap cost at this point. So Nick Harris coming in, I like the idea of him coming back to Seattle as well as a former Washington Husky and all that. You look at what he's done, and he was on the field for about 25% of the Cleveland Browns snaps in 2023. And I would say, too, that there's not a ton of mileage on Nick Harris as well. That this almost feels like a free draft pick of sorts. The fact that we haven't seen him a ton, he had that early injury in his career. You're trying to figure out, okay, does he play center for us? Does he play fullback? The great unknown kind of here with Nick Harris. So I'm intrigued with this. This is one of the more fascinating signings, I think, honestly, just because I'm very curious of what they're going to do. We don't know what the Seahawks are going to do. Does he play fullback and center? Do they mix him around a bit? Is he going to be a backup? What is his role going to be? That's to be determined. But it's an interesting signing for the former Washington Husky to come back to Seattle there. How would you grade the signing of Nick Harris? Let us know what you think. Your grade for this move. 1 year, $2.51 million plus incentives, max of $3.26. Relatively cheap signing for a player that could do multiple things, whether it's play fullback or play center, either one, and gives Ryan Grubb options here. I don't hate the signing personally. I'll be intrigued to see what the Seahawks do. I'm going to give this a solid B here. The Seahawks obviously still have more work to do. I think that what we're seeing is John Schneider typically is a guy that waits when it comes to free agency for that second wave when the price tag goes down on guys, and Schneider's kind of having to play catch up here at this point because you think about guys like Jeremy Chinn, for example, who just signed with the Commanders yesterday, who would have been a pretty good fit for the Seahawks. They haven't needed the safety spot. Chinn signs for $5 million with Washington. That's a guy that typically would sign in the second wave of free agency. And so now the Seahawks in a position where now they got to play catch up. I think with the coaching staff and all that kind of put Schneider behind. And so now they're trying to, put their ducks in a row of sorts and get things back on the right track to catch up with the rest of free agency. So I would think that over the next couple days, things will start to pick up for the Seahawks. Waiting still to see if they're going to get that big marquee signing of sorts yet. Nick Harris, Pharaoh Brown, some smaller signings. Are they going to get that big name? You missed out on Patrick Queen, obviously. He ended up going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are you going to do about the backup quarterback position? Are you going to replace Drew Lock in free agency, or is that going to be a draft or trade move? So still some unanswered questions. We'll see what the Seahawks do. Subscribe now to Seahawks Today for more Seahawks coverage. We'll see you later on this afternoon for our live edition of Seahawks Today. We'll see you then. Subscribe now. We'll see you next time.